Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everybody. And we are past 09 now, so I think that we can get started. And first of all, welcome. Welcome, everybody, to our third EMEA Windows 365 user group event. And today we have three awesome sessions for you, delivered by David, Roy, and Sepideh, that will take us through some really interesting topic. I just want to point out that we are recording this event here, so if you don't want to be part of it, you can either don't turn on your camera and microphone, or you can leave it. The recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel later today, or perhaps tomorrow. Yeah. But before we head into the first session, I will just briefly do a short introduction of who we are from the Windows 365 community, just to set the stage here. So, my name is Mon Pithold, and I'm a part of the Windows 365 community. And what we do is that we are trying to bring Windows 365 news directly to you, and we are doing that in multiple ways. So we are having user groups like this. We actually have three running user groups: one in the US, one in the Asia, and one in EMEA. This one here. And besides that, we're also publishing weekly newsletters to catch up on the latest blog post, new YouTube videos created by the community and Microsoft itself, of course. And lastly, we are trying to do as much knowledge sharing as we can by doing blog posts on our website. We are currently in the work of creating some YouTube videos as well for you to watch and learn from. So we're trying to do a lot to bring Windows 365 to the community. And I'm of course not doing all of this by myself. That will be impossible. We are a big team, a big group of members here that love Windows 365 and yeah, just like sharing with the community. And see if you want to stay in touch with us, seeing the latest newsletter, YouTube videos, and stuff like that. You can see our our names here on the different platforms. And if you would like to share something in a event like this, just reach out to us, any of the members here. You can see our Twitter tag here or LinkedIn, and we will figure something out. It can be something, a big implementation that you might have done, or you have some small experience with the product that you would like to share. It doesn't have to be that technical. It's just, sharing is good with the community, and we all learn from it. So that's nice. So that was just to set the stage here, and I think we're ready with the first session here. So, Sepideh, are you ready?
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Morten. It's great to be here today. So just while the presentation is loading, I just want to see if everybody are awake and with us today. So if you can go up a little bit to the right and just use the reaction button, send me just a smiley or whatever, just to see if you're here. Classic is that about 10% will by accident raise their hand instead, but feel free to go on mute and ask a question if you want to do that as well. But good, I see at least 10 plus people that are awake and are with me, so that is absolutely great. So good to be here today. My name is Sepideh. I won't challenge you this Wednesday to pronounce that out loud, so let's stick to Seppi for the rest of the session if you want to go on mute and ask a question. I am the Windows 365 Global Black Belt in the EMEA team, and my specific regions are the Nordic countries, Middle East, and Africa. So if you're based there, feel free to send me a ping, and if none of those regions, let me know anyways, and I can always connect you with my peers. So more than happy to do so. Just before I jump in and give you kind of the quick updates and where we are, I just wanted to kind of take a few steps back, because very often we kind of jump into new features and the technical stuff, but we kind of forget a little bit about what the main thing behind why we're doing things is. And I just wanted to reemphasize this slide that I've seen, and I've shared it with a few customers as well, that what we're doing right now with Windows 365 is really revolutionary. And I might be slightly biased when I'm saying that, but it's really like the way we took Office to the cloud. This is what we're doing with Windows as well. And I belong to the organization who also holds AVD under the same umbrella. So it's very close to heart as well. And with AVD, we're bringing the server system to the cloud. So that is a little bit, or the server experience, sorry. So that is a little bit where we want to go with Windows and with this solution, taking the entire experience to the cloud, right? And I know all of you guys here are super familiar already with what we're doing, but I see sometimes that we have challenges to explain this to the rest of the organization who might not be as technical when we're talking to maybe the executives in our organization, where we want to help them to understand why we should implement this. And just a fun side story is that I went to UAE to meet with a few customers not too long ago, and I forgot my laptop on the airplane. And for those of you who know how the airport there is, it's not super easy to get back into the plane. And I was super worried at first because I was supposed to be in UAE for a week and spend time with customers and partners and internal peers as well. And just the way that I could use PowerPoint and then just log in from a peer's PC and use a PowerPoint deck that I have online, it would still not be like the full desktop experience. And this is how I try to explain it to executives when they want to understand, why is this different from what I'm doing today? Well, instead of just being able to, for example, access PowerPoint from different devices, this is about giving you the entire desktop experience from different devices. And today that might be your laptop, but tomorrow it might be a TV or another device. And the way we did it is that for the rest of that week, I just took a device and I just used the web browser and accessed my cloud PC, and I did my work seamlessly. So I didn't have to spend time with IT and get the image in and everything. I was just set to get my full desktop experience. And that is a story I'm kind of trying to repeat to both myself, my peers, but also to help you guys to explain to the rest of the organization why there's a need for this and how this can actually help them to do their work. But not going to get stuck too long on this slide. I want to take you quickly through the updates, and the updates actually include what we at Microsoft are doing internally with Windows 365. So we're definitely not only talking the talk, we're also walking the walk here. We are trying to move 25,000 support agents internally at Microsoft to Windows 365. We have our developer team of over 6,000 people who are today working on a Windows 365 device. We have provided it to our executives just to make sure that they can use it, even such as using a cloud PC today. And from July this year, actually every employee at Microsoft is going to have the ability to choose between getting a new device or getting a cloud PC and continue to use your current device. And there are so many studies showing that we can use the devices we have today for so many more years than we're actually doing. And even one study is showing that we can use devices up to 8 years with a cloud PC, and that is better from a sustainability perspective, etc. And I'm not going to lie, maybe I won't want to have a device for 8 years, but I can definitely extend the current 3 years that I have today to 5 or maybe 6 years. And that is going to be a huge shift worldwide. And I see this in so many regions right now. All customers are looking, what can we do from a sustainability angle? So just wanted to share this a little bit, kind of the updates on how we internally at Microsoft are looking at this. This is definitely not something that is nice for a little part of the organization. The way we see it is that every user should be able to use a cloud PC. So if we go into a little bit more in detail, what's new and the new features that we have, I'm not going to go through the roadmap in detail. I'll share the link so you guys can take a look at what's new on Microsoft Docs page, etc. But just a few updates that we have is, for example, that we have the frontline SKU in public preview right now. And the way the frontline SKU works, for those of you who aren't aware about latest updates, is that if you buy, for example, 100 licenses, you're going to be able to provision 300 dedicated cloud PCs to the users. So I just wanted to clarify and just stop there a little bit, because we are not assigning a license to 3 specific users. It's that you're buying, for example, 100 licenses, and you have a pool of 100 licenses that 300 users can use. It's just that they can't log in at the same time. So see it as a version of multi-session, but the big difference here is that each user is still getting a dedicated cloud PC. And the reason we're doing this is, first of all, to make it more cost efficient for organizations who have frontline workers or call centers, who is a typical shift worker scenario. Or for example, I work with a lot of airlines who have they have branches in different countries and geographies who are not going to be online at the same time. So they are looking at scenarios where they see that, okay, so if we always have a maximum of 100 users or 1,000 users online, maybe we can just see that we buy licenses for that, but we just provision more cloud PCs for the rest of the users. So just clarifying, it's one license that you buy, 3 users can use it, but not be logged in at the same time. And it's not tied to specific users. So see it as a pool of licenses. Just a few quick things is that it's in public preview today. So for those of you who haven't tested it, you can sign on. I'll share the presentation with the links on how you proceed with that. You can also reach out to your Microsoft representative and get the information about that. But just a quick specs is that it takes about 2 minutes to sign on, and we're looking to decrease that time. But for now, when it's in public preview, that is the time it takes. And it takes 20 minutes from the time that a user actively signs out until the license is released to another user. And if a user is just inactive and don't do anything after 2 hours, it's automatically assigned to, or the seat is released. And that you can change in group policies and just set a rule that you want it to be less than 2 hours. So just a quick information about that, and you'll see in the presentation here as well that there is links where you can read more, you can access the preview and ask to be a part of it. There's also a link to a very good interactive demo in case you don't have access to a trial and you want to just see how it works and how you provision it and everything in the background. So feel free to take a look at that later on as well. So I was talking a little bit about kind of taking Windows 365 to not only to a specific part of users in the group. And I know we're going to talk about personas later in the presentation as well. But the way we're doing taking the entire operating system to the cloud, what we're doing here is kind of taking a few steps to blur the line between what the physical PC is and what the cloud PC is. So we're really taking steps here to blur that line. And I think just in a few years, we're going to see a huge difference in the way we work today compared to how we will be working. And I was in one meeting where we were talking about that we can see it as a concept of the forever PC. Like a cloud PC is assigned to you and it just follows you wherever you go, whether you are on a laptop today and you're working from it, you're in the sofa, you're sitting in front of the TV, you want to access it from there. As you know, we have the LG TV today where you have Windows 365 and you can use it via the television. Maybe through the car or maybe wherever you would go, that you actually just connect to different devices, but you just have a cloud PC that is like connected to you as a person. So the forever PC kind of concept. And this is really the way we want people to see it. And a few steps we're taking to blur that line is, one is the app. It's super easy for users to just understand how it is to use an app, right? And what we can do here is to kind of give them an experience that they are very familiar with, right? And then we have the pin to taskbar, which is just, you can just pin your favorite cloud PCs and just use them there for a faster launch. But you also have the switch function, which is an end user can just kind of swipe to the left or to the right to switch from their physical PC to then their cloud PC. And having the seamless experiences switching between these two environments is perfect for let's say, bring your own device scenario. So if you have some geographies in the world where it's very common that an end user is taking their own device and they're just getting a cloud PC from work, that end user can very easily shift from their personal environment and their like local PC to the cloud PC where they actually do their work. And this is again kind of blurring the lines between the two, let's say, worlds. We have the boot function, which is now live, and this has been very asked for, especially in frontline scenarios. We have a lot of retail customers who are looking at this and looking at how they can use this, and it's so good because different users can just use the same hardware. So if I am a frontline employee and I'm working in a store, I'm just signing in, boot directly to the device, and when I'm done with my shift and my peer want to sign in, that person can just sign into the same device, but we are still getting our personalized experiences, right? And this is the big difference here. We want to make sure that the end users always have their own personalized desktop, which is the big difference towards all other scenarios with VDI environments as well. The offline functionality is going to be shared later on this year with more information on when it will be released and when it will be in preview, etc. But no specific dates at this point. Just the classic updates, and you can always track these via Windows 365 What's New page. The link is in down to the right there. And a few things I just wanted to highlight here is that we're adding regions where we have availability for the service, which is today Sweden and South Africa are the two latest regions that we have added. Feel free to just add me on LinkedIn. I will always make sure to make updates there to make sure that you guys have the latest, if it is so that you're waiting to have your region launched. We can always work with your Microsoft team if you feel that there's a region where availability should be there. We always track and see where there is a need and prioritize thereafter. And also auto patch support under the security and management part. And I haven't bold marked it, but the utilization reports is updated. And that is something that I call our Achilles heel. And the reason for that is that it's so underestimated, because when we actually show customers what reports they can get out and what information they can get out of that, they become so happy, so to say. So definitely make sure, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that, definitely make sure to do so. So what's next after that? I mean, what we're sharing here is, again, the forever PC concept, right? So, and we want you guys to think beyond the OS. So maybe we started with looking at typical on-prem customers who are looking to maybe decrease cost, etc., and move users to the cloud as one example. But that's where the journey started. Right now, we are expanding that and more looking at what can we do with the forever PC? How can we change the way we're working today? And if we look at the three pillars I mentioned in the beginning of the call here, this is the next kind of revolutionary step that we're taking with the entire operating system. So I look forward to staying in contact with all of you. And with that, I'm just going to leave the cliffhanger and say thank you for me and leave over to next person. I'll follow questions in the chat as well and try to answer anything that comes there.
Great. I'm not sure there's any questions yet, but thank you so much for a great session. It was really nice to see what's the latest new and what's maybe coming up. looking forward to hear more about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, no questions at all, it seems. But so I just think that Roy, if you're ready, you can just take the scene here.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna present. All right. So got a session here on the different personas or users that is benefiting from using Windows 365. So it's been a quite a nice topic to talk about, and hopefully it can make more people open to what Windows 365 could do for their organization. So if it's looking all good at your end, my name is Roy. I will also spare you from pronouncing my last name. I work as a consultant in Sepideh, mainly in Oslo, Norway. Do some blogging, newsletter, so feel free to connect, just like Sepi, on LinkedIn or Twitter, or wherever you might find me. Happy to help with anything, and if you're nearby, let's go grab a coffee. That's my icebreaker. I enjoy my cup of coffee, so let's do that. Just popping over to the agenda for this session. Looking at the personas, of course, there's our multiple personas. I'm going to first talk a little bit about the past, the present, and let's see if we can have a look into the future as well and see what we can find there. Then move on to employees. We have multiple different personas that we hire as employees. We have the consultants, like me. So that's a persona I feel very interested in Windows 365 for. We have different kind of consultants as well, and there's some cross persona purposes I would like to shed some light on as well. Without any more questions around that, let's just jump into the past, present, and future. So when I talk about the past, we have mainly been doing this for, let's go back to whenever the year we got computers in our offices, like in the 90s. We had desktops. We moved on to a bit of terminal services using thin clients. We were mainly doing group policies. We got System Center. Perhaps other ones were running around using Norton Ghost, which I was doing now sometime like 20 years ago. So that's kind of where the past. We kind of moved from that today, and to touch on what is the presence, what do most people do today, and that's where we have moved to mainly using laptops. We have still a focus on the local performance of the device, of the laptop. We are engaging in cloud services quite heavily, like Office 365, as Seppi said. And we started moving, or most of my organizations at least are administrating this from Intune, including mobile devices and like tablets. So it's been a quite good and nice travel the last, I would say, 5-6 years into this presence. And it's kind of cool to then look a little bit into the future, because today I find Windows 365 to be a little bit into the future compared to, because we talk about Windows 365 online and in blogs, but we still have a way to go, because we're still migrating or enabling people in the presence, while Windows 365 is a little bit more in the future. And this is a variation around the world, of course. So what we see for the future is still using laptops. That's probably going to be the main device we take with us around. It's mobile, it's powerful. Yeah, it's what we usually need today. But it's also fun to explore, because if you look past our IT workers, we do have big use of tablets. We have big use of mobile devices. There are big use of screens like TVs around for monitoring and etc. So it's going to come into play a lot of different devices as well. And that is where Windows 365 is shining really well, because it's so supported on major and a lot of devices, not only using your browser, which is a good way of working as well, but from using the applications to native support in the different operating systems running on multiple or different devices. So yeah, and we're still focusing on cloud services like as software as a service services, but instead of having a split between the cloud services and the local performance in your laptop, I believe that the future is more of a hybrid performance where the cloud can leverage the power you have in your local device. And of course, there's also the little carrot that maybe thin clients are coming in again. Of course, there's a lot of scenarios where you can do everything in the cloud, like Windows 365, not necessarily bound to your cloud services or software as a service services, web services. And perhaps it's time to talk about bring your own device again, which would be a nice way for separating your personal and your work-related tasks, where you do your personal stuff in your physical device and you do everything work-related from your cloud PC or your virtual desktop. So the future seems to hold a lot of freedom. There's a good piece for security, and yeah. Although, as we're going to see a little bit later, there are some things we need to discuss a little bit further. So, with that said, let's look a little bit at first type of personas and employees. I choose to do employees first because that is the biggest persona, and I'd like to split it up into these 3 personas that are all employees. Employees meaning you're employed 100%. You do your work, you check in, you check out. That you have one employment. So we have the factory employees, also called first line worker. As Sepideh mentioned, there's the new first line licensing for dedicated cloud PCs. That's one. We have the office employees, the one that goes into the office every day. And we have what we could call the nomad employee, where, well, it doesn't really matter. You work from anywhere and you're free spirit, you run around, and yeah, you like to have access anywhere, anytime. Yeah. Back to the factory employee, we see that there's a lot of shared devices in this scenario or in this persona. You might not really want to use a computer. It's kind of just some hassle and additional equipment. You're used to working in factory, you have big machines. That's what you do day in and day out in your work, and it's satisfying, and you're making stuff, real stuff, like and this is where the license comes in, but also where we see a great use for the Windows 365 boot currently in public preview, right? So it's going to be a nice place for factory employees to be able to have their dedicated cloud PC, the dedicated virtual desktop, starting without having to bother with the local device at all. Maybe a great scenario for introducing thin clients again. So, Sepideh, if Microsoft is coming with a thin client, I think it's welcoming.
Maybe later on.
Maybe later on. Yes, and then we have the office employee, the one that's stuck in the office for different reasons. You know, the pandemic has forced a lot of people into the home office, and it's not just the cool kids that run around in coffee shops and stuff anymore. We have gotten quite used to running around since then, and some of us are still doing it. We're not bound to the office, but we have those that still hold the office as a great place to work, either because they want separate lines between personal and business related tasks, or it's still kind of nice to see people and chat with people, meet for a coffee, and just that kind of thing that you not necessarily have too good access of in our virtual space. But again, Windows 365 boot is something that I could see for office employees. We all have offices where there are deployed a screen, a keyboard, a mouse, there's network. We have what we need in order to go to the office. We bring our laptops everywhere. And for the office employee, well, it might be a little bit hassle to carry the laptop because you usually don't use it when you're home anyway. So perhaps just have clean desktops with a device as well. So you carry your phone. You can do most of your things on your phone as well when you're not bringing your laptop. So but just don't also deliver a device on each clean desktop in the office. So you can sit wherever you want and log on to your cloud PC without having to think about the local device. And then, of course, the nomads, the ones that running around. Of course, this is very related to me as a consultant. We move around. We are perhaps a lot in the home office, especially if you're like me with small kids. It's very convenient. It's practical. Yeah, you get things done during your 24 hours a little more practical. And of course, this has been supercharged, I would say, by the pandemic. And I'm not sure if we are able to stop at a specific station that we see now. We're crossing like a station where some are going back to offices, some are still heavily on the move, like a nomad. Not sure if we can stop here or if it's just passing through to the next station where is the future lies. But I would like to see this as a path that we are on, and it's and into the future talked about earlier. Where you can choose, and we can make the office even more easy for administration, for IT, and pleasant for everyone that works. But of course, this might come with a cost if you are still supercharging into a next station where we are even more nomads around the world. We do have discussions around how efficient is it? Do we lose something in our teams when we're not together physically? There's also a rise in demand on our personal achievement in society, I believe, especially for families. Might be a topic for a later meetup, but I want to add it to my slide. Great things Seppi said, and that's about the life cycle of devices, because it's very nice to be able to expand that. I think today, at least around my corners, 3 years is the common rule for how long a device is useful. Beyond that, we see it as out of warranty. We see it as getting slow. You're getting inefficient because you have an old device. Extending the life which is very good for, I'd say, 90% of the employees. They don't necessarily bother about what device they have, like we do. Like we think it's fun to change devices. We think it's fun to set up a new device, just unbox it and everything. It's fun. If I could change every year, I would have fun. Maybe kept more of them rather than just exchanging it. But yeah. But for the 90% rest of the employees, they don't necessarily care about it. Yeah. So that's the 3 employees. Let's talk a little bit more about the consultants. I think of it as 2 type of employees. In-house consultants. You kind of are hired to sit in the customer's office. You sit along with the employees. You have a device, an identity. You have everything provided equal to an employee. But of course, you are hired in to do a certain task or to bring additional power to a team. Yeah, you're more or less an employee at the department you're hired into. You will probably have 2 places to work. You do need to write your hours in order for it to be billed, etc. when you're a consultant, but you might not even have much to collaborate or chat with your fellow consultants. You are almost at the point where they will offer you a deal in the customer's office, which also happens, right? But the other one, the consultants that are working with multiple customers, it's much more remote working. The consultancy has offices, of course, but not necessarily any benefit from being there when you're always working with customers, unless you are a team, of course. And we're back to the efficiency and how we work as humans, whether that would be a great way of staying more, even though the powertrain has pushed us into these home offices and coffee shops, etc. We do have one thing that's been attempted in order to, especially for the nomad consultants, and that's where we see the use of B2B, business to business collaboration. It's a nice feature. It has not necessarily the first priority, right? Because the first priority is the customer itself. Supporting consultants in a B2B settings is second to how I see Microsoft's development. And nothing to blame, of course not. It's how it runs. And we see some of our teams as consultants can thrive, can have a little bit easier workday when they can use our own consultant identity to access customers' services and platforms. You don't have to have multiple identities or triple or etc. because you're working with multiple customers. But there is one issue that has arisen over the years of trying to develop or trying to enable B2B, and that is customers today are applying conditional access rules. Specifically, it's compliance policy, where you need to be compliant according to the customer's rule. So that kind of makes your B2B scenarios often fail, because you couldn't be compliant with your customers' policies. Your device is enrolled in your consultant's tenant and managed there. Of course, then the next thing we received was the cross-tenant kind of trust, where you could trust other tenants' compliance status. That is one step closer, but it brings it into a trust of the different partners you have. Maybe some are smaller, some are larger presence in your house. So you might trust some of them to do it, but you really don't know if they change anything, or like in my company, it is run by an IT department in France, which I don't have much contact with. The leadership in Norway isn't necessarily the one that can say changes because a Norwegian customer wants to have that in the policy. So we're still a little bit away to making B2B. And here is where Cloud PC, a Windows 365 Cloud PC, is very useful, and is, as I've written about before, very welcoming. It makes me able to work with every customer in their own environment without being held to a lot of devices. Like, because when you entered your home office, when you're sitting at a cafe or something, it's not easy to have like 3, 4, 5 laptops hanging around or open in order to work with every customer at the same time. By leveraging Cloud PC, it's much easier to swap between them. You keep your security according to the customer's policies, because you are having a device, virtual device, in their tenant, and yeah, it's a very nice way of working. So I will definitely want this in my life as more of a nomad consultant. And this is my home. This is where I feel most down to how it will improve my day. But it's also going to be very interesting to see where this is going with all the different personas and how it will interact with the physical device vendors, because that's also something that's coming to mind. I made a little joke about Microsoft making thin clients. There are multiple vendors out there that does specific operating systems, does specific devices that is useful for this specific scenario, like iGel OS or different vendors of small physical devices can run on a stripped down Windows version as well. But we kind of tried the thin client route. We tried doing it for like 20 years ago. It got some speed, but we're not there anymore. Well, the last 10 or 5, 6, 7 years, it's the opposite. We're moving away from the VDIs and the thin clients and such into everyone having a chunky laptop as running around with. And now I see thin clients, I see small operating systems coming back, and this time it seems to fit my day and my customers' day a lot more than what it did before. Perhaps we can even go to a place where it doesn't really matter which device you're connecting with. For some, like the employees, they don't care. They just want it as simple as possible, which is where Windows 365 boot will be very, very nice and very pleasant way of entering your Cloud PC. But from my perspective, and for the ones that are a little more interested in the devices, it seems to be a time where it could really work. And yeah, so I'm really looking for it. I'm hoping this gets traction it needs, and being able to see the future and come into this type of future. Yeah. So last here is the cross persona purpose. It's one purpose that lies a little bit closer to the IT department or to your consultants. As a consultant, we often have like privileged access to different stuff. We we come in, we need some sort of privileged access to be able to help the customer out. And to do that, there might be a need for something called like a privileged access workstation or jump host, if you like. These are kind of the same. They are both reliant on Windows 365's Azure network connection, because you can place your Windows 365 Cloud PC into an Azure virtual network, and you will have kind of local access to resources in that network. So for a jump host, it's protected by your conditional access rules. It's protected by your Indian policy. You can lock it down to something very small. You don't necessarily have any access between your local device and the cloud PC. So you're not really compromising your environment by using a cloud PC. And from there, you can jump on to your Azure resources. If you're in a setting, especially kind of if you have a legacy deployment in Azure or something you built in Azure based on infrastructure as a service, you can gain a certain level of security by having everything done and worked on inside Azure, inside your Azure subscription, and not necessarily connected to outside services. But I like to focus on being privileged access workstation a little bit more, because we do have a lot of consultants and IT departments and such that elevates, and we have tried using like a terminal service or something to when we do privileged stuff, like having an admin user, you can log on to a different device or log on to a virtual desktop and then elevate your permissions and go do what you need to do from that device. It's quite the same as when you separate personal and work related stuff as an employee, where we have seen a lot of people having one device. They have the device, the laptop they get from work. They don't necessarily buy a second one for personal use. So you use the laptop provided by your company for both personal and work-related tasks. Perhaps even install applications for both purposes. And bringing that into IT and into when you have additional permissions, you're elevated using different roles. You should, and we have tried it, but just been too hard to stick with it. So we've fallen back to using our work laptop, elevate our permissions, our access, and then just go do our thing with either cloud services or wherever. But everything else you do on your laptop is installing applications, tweaking that, testing that. You have a lot of things going on that you don't need necessarily when you are doing your elevated tasks or tasks that requires elevated access permissions. So by having a cloud PC as a privileged access workstation, it will be more clean. You don't have to install like Spotify or anything that you test out and stuff on that cloud PC. You just go there when you want to access something. So you have a cleaner, you have a more secure device. You can also lock it down even further than what you do on your day-to-day work. So it's a pretty neat scenario if you're going down the route of actually securing yourself with a privileged access workstation. So I've written about it, and we have implemented it in a couple of cases to try it out. And it's still a little bit hassle, of course. That's where security comes in and kind of makes the user friendliness a little bit less user friendly. But it's a compromise. It's always been, and seems to be always going to be if you're taking in all the scenarios that can interrupt or can hurt you when you're enabled your privileged access. Yeah. So from that, I just want to say thanks for listening, and I hope it was useful to have a little chat about the different personas and where we could see Windows 365 and the cloud PC going. I think it's also interesting to see how it combines with Azure Virtual Desktop. We have customers that also focus on AVD, while simultaneously having discussions about Windows 365, where of course AVD has the benefit of only or supporting virtual applications. So we virtualize the single application that one need, and especially for legacy things that still need local connection with your services, even though they're hosted in Azure or in your on-prem environments. AVD has a way there. I'm welcoming that it will be even more together, AVD and Windows 365. Windows 365 has the better app. Let's see if we can have virtual applications in there as well. Thanks, Morten. So feel free to contact me on any way where you could find me. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much for an awesome session. That was really, really good. Really interesting to see all different personas you have listed there. So really nice to see. Cool. And if there's no questions, let's jump further to David.
Hi everyone, let me just get my presentation started. Perfect. Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. Yeah, so welcome guys. Thank you very much for taking your time out today to join us as I talk about the Windows 365 custom images. It's a pleasure to be following on from Sepideh and Roy. So just a little bit about me then. One second, wait, let me click next. So I'm David. I'm a product manager by day. I frequently blog on my blog just to the bottom left-hand corner. Very passionate about learning, always up to learning new skills, new pieces of technology. I've recently started community speaking, which has obviously brought me here today, and I've got a massive book for it now. And in my spare time, I teach 27 7-year-olds how to play rugby. So I'm very used to organised chaos. So one of the first questions that I got asked when I first presented this is, do we really need custom images for Windows 365? The answer is it really depends. There is a couple of use cases for things like developer machines, long-running installation, some core requirements. But the more people I spoke to, it was more about bridging the initial gap between on-premise and the cloud. So your configuration manager, task sequence admins, how they can then utilize custom images to bake all of what they've got now into a custom image and then get that on a cloud PC. I won't go over heavy on PowerPoint presentation. I love to demo this stuff, so I'm going to quickly fly through these slides. If you do have any questions, either pop them in the chat or wait on until the end and we'll discuss them at the end. Yeah, there is definitely pros and cons to doing the custom images. Some of the pros are you get your repeatable processes, you are able to define how you want that machine to spin up rather than just using a gallery image. But then the cons to doing that is, again, you've got something else to manage. It can be overbearing. You need different people with them skill sets. And what I'm aiming to do with this session is help you bridge some of that gap by showing you how to do some of the stuff and also give you some of the resources to be able to achieve that as well. Cool. So let's have a look at the 3 solutions that I come up with for today. The first one is you can use PowerShell utilizing the AZ Image Builder module, we can create a deployment template to manage and then manage the entire process by uploading that image with the Graph API as well to the Windows 365 platform. And then also it can create or update a provisioning policy from that process as well. The second one is Azure DevOps pipelines. So taking a little bit of the PowerShell in terms of using the Graph API to bring that all together into the platform. But this time it will be utilizing ARM templates, so the Azure Resource Manager templates, and also Bicep, which will then also do all the managed disk conversion and then publish it into Azure. And finally, we've got the Azure UI. So if anybody's not seen this yet, you can now do image templates in the Azure UI. It's only been around a couple of weeks, but this is really great to get started on that journey of creating custom images. Okay, so before we get started, there is a few foundations that you need to understand that we're going to need for these processes. So you're going to need an Azure subscription where you will have the owner rights for. You're going to need an Intune administrator role or a service principal for DevOps, which has got a certain permission. You're going to need a resource group, a user managed identity, some registered Azure providers. And to make this easy, I've got a script that's hosted on that link now on GitHub. All of the part series links at the bottom as well will be live after this video. There's a 4-part blog series, which again will help you take some of this away in text format and really start utilizing this in your own environments as well. We'll go through this script a little bit when we get to the demo side, but this script will essentially do all of this for you, apart from the Azure subscription roles and Intune admin roles. But it will create the resource group, user managed identity, and also do your provider registration as well. So using PowerShell then, so some of the real benefits of using scripting is it's versatile, it's repeatable. You can use source control to control where your data is, so you can track your changes. And then you can also do the complete process with PowerShell again, uploading it into the platform and then putting it into your provisioning policy from there. Again, we will speak a little bit about this. There's a full script that we've got again go through in the demo, and this will also be part 2 of the blog series. Using DevOps, so again, it's going to bring some back of that repeatability, the source control, the complete process. We're also bringing in some of the CI/CD elements of being able to continuously update, improve, and then deploy that using DevOps pipelines. You also have the ability to schedule updates using cron schedules. So, for example, you want to update an image once every Sunday to include the latest Windows updates or something like that. You could do it after Patch Tuesday, and then any machine you provision from there on in will also have the latest updates as well. And then the Azure UI. So this is still new and it is in preview, but it is very exciting for some admins that are not very au fait with PowerShell or ARM or Bicep or the DevOps sort of process as well. This makes it really nice and easy and consumable for the mass, for people en masse. Again, it's UI driven. You will have some built-in customizations, and I cannot tell you how much this is going to make people's lives easier, especially trying to use the AVD optimization packs, because they can sometimes be challenging to get working. But then you can also bring your own customizations. We will talk a little bit about the SAS tokens and public content as we go through the processes as well. But you have the ability to store some of your resources and scripts behind storage accounts. You can then use SAS tokens to access them, or you can use the user managed identity to access them files. But all content has to be public content. It cannot be behind private endpoints or anything like that. It has to be publicly available. And then finally for this one is the simplified administration. As you can see a little bit there, is very much a click add, and then you add in customizations. So as I said, it was very quick run through from the slide format. So we're just going to move straight into some demos just to show you around the code a little bit and how it does that resource registration. And then we'll also look at all the different processes as we go along. Perfect. Can everybody see this screen? I'll take silence as yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Perfect. So this infrastructure script, again, this is available on GitHub. There is a synopsis as well at the top for anybody that wants to go read that as well. I will go over all the parameters. I'll just go over some key stages, just in the interest of showing you how some of this process works and keeping the flow going. So as I mentioned, we do need some resource providers for this process to work. As you can see here, there is some of the resource providers we need. So the compute, key vault, storage, virtual machine images, network, etc. And if they're not already registered providers on your subscription, this script will go ahead and register them for you. The key vault one, it's not necessarily required for this process, what we're speaking about in its form. But I leave it in there because if you do decide to use this script for something like AVD, where you store your passwords in key vaults, that will also register that provider as well for you. As we go down again, so you can see here, if the resource group doesn't exist, it will go and create it by a name you specify. And then it will also create the user managed identity for you as well. And that user managed identity needs a certain set of permissions over that resource group to be able to function correctly. And this is why having this in a PowerShell script that does the infrastructure before you get started is because if you want to go create this manually, it's very laborious to do this once per resource group, especially if you're going to be doing this for different customers or you want to do it for a different resource group. Having it in a script like this allows you to continuously redeploy this to different resource groups and different subscriptions and continue to work seamlessly as well. And once then it's created them, it will go through and do a loop to make sure that role is assigned. Now, what we'll do is we'll just run through this quickly so you will see what's created. So you will see here that it just requires a few parameters to put in to start with. So your geolocation, for example, mine is UK South, your subscription ID, and a resource group. Again, this resource group can be anything unique, or if you have something in your tenant already, you can use that resource group and it will go retrospectively do the user managed identity and things for you. It will kick in just a moment. I should have probably logged in first. Come on, nice and quick. This is where the demo gods really don't play well. Well, that is kicking off. I will go show you from what other subscription I did yesterday. So yesterday I created this resource group, and what it will do is it will create the resource group with the name you specify, and it will also create that user managed identity for you again. And inside your roles for the resource group, you will also see that it's created that custom image definition and assigned just that user managed identity to there to ensure that the process can work as expected. And again, if we head back over, you can see here that it's going to create us the new resource group, and then it's gone and created the role definition because it didn't exist, and then it went through and made sure that that role definition was assigned to that user managed identity. So now we've done the foundations. This is where the real good stuff happens. This is where we start to create that Windows 365 image that we want. So if we head over to the image script, again, a synopsis at the top of this script. A few things I'd like to point out here are the image template name. So this is the name of the template you will be publishing. The image gallery name. So you can see here, I've got it set to the compute image gallery for Windows 365. This, again, if these don't exist, it will go and create them for you. If they do exist, it will reuse them. But one of the main things you need to look at here is the offer name and the offer SKU. So when you're creating a custom image, you need to make sure you've got something that's suitable for the platform you're on. So as you can see here, we're using the Windows Enterprise CPC, so Cloud PC offer, and then underneath that offer, it's got a SKU. There is on GitHub as well a link to the custom images, so how you can find your image options for this to really help you narrow this down as well. But you can see here, I'm going to be using Windows 11 22H2 with the M365 apps built in. Cool. So then it does, when you start going through the scripts, it does some connections, and then it really starts to build up your image gallery definition, your image based on the offer. And then as we go a little bit further down, we can start to do our customizations. So in PowerShell, you create an object for each customization you want to do, and then you add it to your template that we're going to be publishing later. So you can see in this one, we just wanted to set up a simple text file on the C drive. The next one, we want to do a Chrome install. Now you can see here, we're just using raw GitHub content from a PowerShell script that lives in my GitHub. And this is where you can start to utilize the scripts you've already got. And again, if they're publicly available, such as on my GitHub for this very simple install, you can put a link to there. You can put SAS token URLs in here as well, and it will use the content from that script. Or if you, again, use that user managed identity and it's got data read access to your storage account, you can just put the link to the file straight into the script. And then just for demo purposes again as well, I've put in an inline object. So what I've done there with Chrome inside the PowerShell script, you can also do that directly inline by specifying the inline parameter and completing your PowerShell arguments within there. Now, because the Windows 11 VMs are generation 2, it is important that you specify run elevated and run a system. If you only specify one, the image might error out, and sometimes it does complete, but it doesn't have the expected outcomes as well. And then as we go down, you can see we start to build up, and then it goes and creates the template. So now we've created a template, it doesn't necessarily create the image at that point. You've literally got a quick template file that is then ready to distribute to a compute image gallery, managed disk, or something like that. So we then start the image build process. Now, this can take a while. So there is a 60-minute wait loop. A 60-second wait loop. And what this looks like. So I didn't want the demo gods to really mess me up today. So I did this in another window yesterday to start going through this. So when it goes through and creates the customizations and then starts the build, you can see we'll just loop through saying that it's still processing the AIB image. And this is just so you're not sat there watching nothing happen and wondering where it's at. Is anything working? Is it not working? This is to really make it visible for yourself. And once it does that, it will then create a managed disk in this instance. Windows 365, unfortunately, at the present, and I don't think there is any plans to do so either, doesn't use your shared image galleries. It will use a managed disk that you will upload to the service, and that will effectively put it in one of Microsoft's image galleries for then to be used on the Windows 365 platform. So once it's finished completing the image, what it will do is it will go get that latest image again and then create that disk as we just mentioned. And then as we get towards the end, you will see here we're going to start uploading the image to Windows 365. So this will literally complete the full image upload process for yourself as well. Again, we will go through another 60-second wait loop, and you can see here that it's uploading, it's still in progress, and it will continue to do that until it is uploaded. Now, I found this can often take the longest time, and I'll show that in a minute in DevOps as well, on how that works. But then once you've got the image uploaded, to make this process repeatable and complete, it can then also either update or create you a provisioning policy. As you can see here, I'm getting the current provisioning policies, checking for one where it's got the provisioning policy display name. If it's got one, it will go and update that to ensure that it's using the new uploaded image. Otherwise, if it's a new name, it will go and create you a provisioning policy with some values specified. Perfect. So to run that again, you can this template parameter is in that synopsis block. But the way I'd like to call this from PowerShell is using a param block like this, and then calling it against a script. It allows you to separate out your commands, and you don't end up with that one liner that's across an A4 piece of paper. But once you execute this, it will then again go start that repeatable process. And if you save this inside source control, you will be able to then iterate over this and continually make changes to your processes. The demo code is definitely not with me. Yeah, as we saw in the script, we did execute this and it uploaded the image and then uploaded that to Windows 365. I'm just heading here, custom images. You will see here, refresh the page. It successfully uploaded that yesterday to Windows 365 and then put that inside. It created a provisioning policy and put that image in there as well. Perfect. So that's it for the PowerShell side. Again, this is all going to be blog posted as well, so you'll be able to take that away from this. But if we move over to the DevOps side now, I'm a massive fan of using DevOps so that we can use pipelines for when we do change our image templates to start that generation automatically. And the reason I like using DevOps more is the PowerShell side is very much hands-on. You've got to wait, have a console window open, make sure it doesn't crash, make sure your machine doesn't go to sleep. And using DevOps takes all that away from you, and it can complete the entire process without you interacting with that. On the DevOps side, there is a few additional things that we need to create. So you need a service connection to Azure from your DevOps project, and then you also need a service principal. So if I just head over to here, just quick refresh. So the service principal element is used for uploading the image to Windows 365. It's not required for anything else. It does require that to have the same custom role assigned to it as the user managed identity, and that is because it needs to be able to read the managed disk that you create through the process to then upload that to Windows 365. But if we look at API permissions, the only permission this has from an API perspective is Cloud PC read write, because all it's going to be utilized for is uploading that to the Windows 365 platform. So let's just take a look at the code for this quickly. So if I just close that down. So you can see down here at the bottom, we've got our custom image code. And I like to utilize Bicep because it makes it a little bit more readable for people compared to the native ARM. And in here again, it is very much, everything is based on parameters, which we will set in a parameters file just up here. The parameters are they're very much the same to the PowerShell execution. But this time during Bicep, you will edit the Bicep file and add in your customizations this way. And so again, you can see we've got the install Chrome from the same link, and again, install Visual Studio using that inline parameter. And as I was saying about creating schedules, you can see down here that I've got it to do a Windows restart after installs. It will then do Windows updates, and then again, it will do another restart to make sure them updates have applied successfully. If you run this after Patch Tuesday, even if you don't make any additional changes to your image, when you create a new Cloud PC from that point forward, using a custom image, you will make sure it has got the latest Windows updates on, so it's not powering on and having to restart to do a Windows update. You can put them Windows updates in the code, get it to rebuild it, update that provisioning policy, and away it goes. And it takes some of that burden away from you making sure that machine is patched. So the way we then control this is we use two pipelines. You can put this all in a single pipeline. The reason I brought this up, I'm a Yorkshireman, I'm a cheapskate, and I'm currently only using the free pipelines, which you get a maximum 1 hour execution. And sometimes the image template can take 45 minutes to 1 hour to complete. And then when it moves on to the uploading to Windows 365 again, that can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours to complete. And my pipeline started bumming out after 1 hour. If you're using a paid pipeline, you're not going to have that issue. You can merge them. But for my purposes, because this is only in my lab, for blogging and speaking purposes, it's split into two pipelines to be able to demonstrate that as well. So if we look at the pipelines themselves, so the service connection, we won't go through sort of creating the whole service connection today. Again, that's going to be in the blogs that will be released after this. The service connection name that you create, your subscription ID, all of the other parameters that we've already gone through and created, the path to your templates and the path to your template parameters. And then that schedule I was talking about before, this is where you can start to build up that schedule on when you want this to complete. So I've left it commented out in the code. I don't want to run it on a schedule. This is just to give you the resources to be able to do that if you so wish. But then if we look at what it's actually doing in the pipeline, so it will install any required modules. It will delete the old AIB setup. Now, images have Azure image builder templates currently are not updatable. So what this does is it will go look for something that's got that image template name. It will remove the old template, and then it will redeploy the new template just to ensure that that process completes successfully. And then what it will do is it will deploy the template. This normally takes around about a minute to 3 minutes, and then it will generate that managed image for you to then pull that up into Windows 365. And then the deploy pipeline, this just does the required modules and an upload. Now, all of these actions have been put in a boilerplate script of deployment actions. And this is, again, very customizable to your needs. You can change this, you can add things to this. But this is where all the PowerShell commandlets are run. And then from the pipeline, we're just calling that deployment action script with different parameters to make sure we're getting it to do what we need it to do. So when you're using pipelines to upload to Windows 365, we need a client secret for that service principal as well. So it is very important that once you've created all them parameters, that you add your client secret variable in here with your secret value, just to ensure that it can connect to the service and go away and do its thing. Now, if we go look at some of our runs, so if I just look at this job quickly, you will see all the steps that we're completing in that YAML file are going through. So it's checking for an image template, non-existent, so it just continued down. It creates the profile, and then it generates the managed image. Now, it will put out all the customizations you've got here. So it is nice and visible for you to see. And then again, just so you're not wondering what it's doing, it's going to continue to put out the current build status in here for you. And then once that completes, we've got the deploy pipeline. And you can see here, after dead on an hour, it cancels the job. Now, this didn't mean it failed. It completely finished uploading that image, but the execution timed out because it was longer than 60 minutes. But if we look at the job, you will see, again, it will go through and continuously run through that. And again, if we look back at the, where's it gone? The custom images that we've got, you will see that I uploaded one yesterday for running through that process as well. I will demonstrate how this looks when you log in, just because this is the one I created. I made sure this machine was online for this morning as well. But Visual Studio is one of the longest running installations, especially if you're installing all of the different packs for developers and things like that. If I could spell. But when you log in, all of your apps will be there and available to use without any additional going to the company portal, installing it, waiting 40 minutes for it to download, install, and making this a lot more consumable for the developers and people alike that require some of them core apps and some of the longer running installations in the process as well. So finally, I just want to cover off the Azure UI. Now, again, I think this is a brilliant piece of work Microsoft have completed. Previously, everything had to be ARM templates or bicep templates to create them image templates. Microsoft, under the Azure Virtual Desktop section, Blade inside Azure, have given you this custom image templates option. And as you can see here, I've got a couple that I've been playing around with in different resource groups. But we'll go through and create a new one just so we can show the process. And before, as I said, you can't update templates. So Microsoft have done something very clever here that allows you to then just go browse your previous templates and select it. So because there's not that source control element in this as such, you can still go back and select a previous image template that you have to then add to your process going forward. Let me just close this, fix up my space. No, well, but we're going to go through and create a brand new template. We're going to put that in the user group that we just created, UK South, and then we're going to select our managed identity. And again, these need to match up because the permissions need to be right on this resource group to be able to deploy the image templates. So you then have an option of selecting your source image. So you can use a platform image, which we will do for this sake. If you've got any current shared images or managed images in your environment, you can go select them as well. But if we click on select an image, you will see all the different flavors of windows that you can go select. Again, for this one, I'm going to go for a multi-session with M365 apps. So if you're using something like AVD, you can put it to an Azure Compute Gallery and then utilize it from within there. For Windows 365, all we need to do is use a managed image. And again, we're going to put this out to our resource group. Image. We're going to give it a new name. We're going to tell it the location we want it to be stored. And then the run output name. So EMEA image. We click next. So you can specify some build properties here. If you want to connect to a VNet to have access to on-premise resources, if you're going to have some scripts in there, or for example, if you're a healthcare and you need to be attached to a certain network to install some of these applications, you can connect your AIB machine to a certain VNet to allow it to have access to those. But this is where the fun really happens. So in the customizations, as we spoke about before, there is the built-in script section. And these are some of the built-in options, and I'm sure Microsoft are going to iterate these and add more or make some improve some of these as we go along. But you have the ability to select to install some language packs now. Sometimes this can be a pain for people to download and install language packs on machines. But then you can also do things like install FS Logics if you're using that, set the default language, remove some of those pesky Apex packages that we all script and we all take away from machines. But it's giving you that inbuilt option to just go select a few of these and it will remove them. Don't do that though, don't click away from the screen because it does remove it. So let's just go select a few of these again. Back on here, click save. And then again, this bring your own customization elements. So even if you've got that user managed identity scenario for a storage account, as long as that URI is publicly accessible or accessible on that VNet that you're on, for example, you can then bring your own customization to this fold. As soon as you click next and create it, yes, I was very dirty, didn't add any tags, but it's just for the sake of demonstration. We'll see that the machine will pop up in here in just a moment. Sorry, the image template will pop up here in just a moment. Too impatient. There you go. So you can see it's creating that image template now, and the build has not yet started. So you can see that image template was really quick to create. You would then come in here and click Start Build, and that will then build you your image from there. So let me just bring this back to the presentation. No, you don't want to start again from there. So let's take a look at a few considerations then. So if you update your provisioning policy, it will not automatically update your clients. You will have to find a different process to update them applications unless you're going to go re-provision those machines. So this process isn't going to redeploy all your machines because that'd be completely bonkers. You would need to find an alternative method of updating them apps if that's what you're doing inside your templates. Only use custom images and customizations when necessary. So yes, it's great that we can do custom images, but if you can use a platform image and you've only got a very lightweight environment where you can install things through that enrollment status page scenario, by all means do that. You don't need to add complexities to your environment if you don't need to. Image cleanup. So as you saw on my Windows 365 environment, I've got a lot of images because I've done a lot of testing because I didn't want any demo gods to make me fail today. But you've got to go do some of that cleanup, or you can look at scripting some of that as well. So just to summarize then, so you can use these three methods to help with your custom images. Use which one works for you. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. Do what you feel most comfortable with. You can use this code set that that I'm going to be providing to make sure you can do AVD images with it. You can do as general images to deploy any virtual machines in Azure with it as well. And if you're new to images, start with the UI, get familiar, get a feel with how they're working, and then make yourself more comfortable with the other code sets from there on forward. And all blog links will be live in just one moment when I just click publish. And yeah, thank you, and any questions?
Wow, thank you for a great session, David. It was really, really good. I think people would like to have the link for your GitHub.
It's on the bottom there. It's just on the bottom there. So the little GitHub at the bottom, Brook D2404. Cool. Take you straight to the GitHub as well.
Are there any further questions? Because I think we're done. You did really good, and
thank you.
Yeah, I think we will close this meetup a bit earlier, but that's fine. But thanks to all the speakers that came here, and thanks to all the attendees to take your time to come to this meetup. We will have more meetup in the future, and I will share this recording of the event on the event page of this meetup at meetup page. Yeah. So thank you for joining, and have a nice day and take care.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one. See you later.
Thank you.